Welcome to Wellness and Mindfulness Digest 2026-06-24. Today's 11 stories. Story 1, The Effectiveness of Mindfulness-Based Programs for Mental Health Outcomes in Young Adults, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. Story 2, Measurable Mindfulness, How AI is Finally Proving Meditation Works. Story 3, 76.8% of Dojo meditation sessions lowered heart rate in early wearable analysis. Story 4, The Breath is the Lever on Your Nervous System, and so much more. Story 5, 4 Soothing Restorative Yoga Poses for when you're overwhelmed and exhausted. Story 6, Embodied Compassion for Difficult Emotions. Story 7, Frontiers, the Association of Mindfulness on Psychological Distress among Chinese University Students. Story 8, EEG Interpretation across Chant Listening, a single-subject pilot investigation using spectral and functional connectivity analysis. Story 9, Sound Bath for Nervous System Regulation. Story 10, Yoga Nidra for Nervous System Regulation, Self-Awareness, and Emotional Clarity. Story 11, Your Beach Vacation Can Boost Your Mental Health. Experts share 3 tips. Story 1, The Effectiveness of Mindfulness-Based Programs for Mental Health Outcomes in Young Adults, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. Echo Sound Healing Studio in Philadelphia is offering a weekly sound bath series running from late June through late August 2026, and it is a telling snapshot of where wellness culture is heading right now. For $30 a session, participants can lie down in a studio on West Burke Street, surrounded by crystal singing bowls and gentle instrumentation, while a guide leads them through breath awareness and aromatherapy in a 60-minute immersive experience. The studio frames this not as a spiritual practice, but as nervous system regulation, a deliberate nod to the science of stress and the growing public familiarity with concepts like the vagus nerve and polyvagal theory. What makes this event notable is not the event itself, but what it represents. Sound baths have moved decisively out of yoga retreat centers and into urban studio spaces, priced and packaged for busy professionals dealing with burnout, sleep problems, and chronic stress. The fact that no prior meditation experience is required is a significant design choice. It signals that the target audience is not the already converted wellness enthusiast, but the stressed-out person who has never set foot on a meditation cushion. The weekly rotating themes are also a smart retention mechanic. Rather than offering a single reproducible experience, Echoes gives attendees a reason to return week after week, building a community around the practice. Each session promises something slightly different in terms of intention and focus, while the core format remains consistent. However, it is worth noting what is not in this listing. There are no instructor credentials, no references to peer-reviewed research, and no outcome data. The benefits described, improved sleep, emotional release, reduced tension, are real phenomena reported by many sound bath participants, but they remain largely anecdotal. The wellness industry operates in a space adjacent to healthcare but largely unregulated by it, and this listing is a clean example of that dynamic. For most people, a sound bath is a pleasant, low-risk experience. But as these practices increasingly borrow the language of clinical mental health, the gap between what is promised and what is proven deserves attention. Story 2, Measurable Mindfulness, How AI is Finally Proving Meditation Works. Cascadia Training has launched a new professional development course on Yoga Nidra, and the way it is framed tells you a great deal about where integrative mental health is heading. This is not a course for general wellness enthusiasts. It is tagged under inclusive clinical practice, which means it is designed for therapists, counselors, social workers, and other healthcare professionals who want to add a research-adjacent, body-based tool to their clinical work. Yoga Nidra is a guided practice that brings the practitioner to the edge of sleep without crossing over into it. That hazy, deeply relaxed state you might recognize as the few minutes just before you drift off at night. In that state, the brain shifts into slower wave activity, the nervous system downregulates, and the mind becomes unusually receptive. Researchers have been studying this state for decades, and there is a growing body of evidence suggesting that regular yoga nidra practice can reduce cortisol levels, improve sleep quality, and help people process emotional material that is harder to access in a fully waking state. What is particularly notable here is the clinical framing. By positioning this as a course for practitioners rather than a general wellness offering, Cascadia training is contributing to the professionalization of contemplative practices within healthcare. The inclusion of inclusive clinical practice as a tag signals awareness that these tools need to be delivered thoughtfully across diverse populations, with attention to trauma history, cultural context, and individual needs. This course launch is a small but meaningful data point in a much larger story. The mental health field is actively expanding its toolkit. With therapist shortages, rising anxiety and burnout rates, and growing skepticism around overprescription of psychiatric medications, non-pharmacological approaches like yoga nidra are moving from the margins to the mainstream. The question going forward is not whether these practices work. The evidence is encouraging, but whether clinicians receive training rigorous enough to use them safely, effectively, and equitably. Story 3. 76.8% of Dojo meditation sessions lowered heart rate in early wearable analysis. A Yahoo Health article is making the rounds with a straightforward but well-grounded message. Your beach vacation is not just a break from work. It is a genuine mental health opportunity, and there are specific, expert-backed ways to get more out of it. The article draws on 3 professionals, a counselor, a psychologist, and a behavioral health clinician, to offer 3 concrete recommendations. First, try something genuinely new, not just relaxing with a book, but seeking out an experience that triggers real novelty, something that activates what psychologists call awe. The example given is swimming in a bioluminescent bay in Jamaica, where microorganisms light up around you in neon blue. It sounds extraordinary, and that is the point. Research on awe has shown that experiencing something vast, beautiful, or genuinely surprising can reduce stress hormones, expand your sense of time, and even lower markers of physical inflammation. Second, walk barefoot on the sand. This is not just poetic advice. Behavioral health clinician Mark Debus explains that focusing on the physical sensations of sand and water underfoot is a form of grounding, a mindfulness technique used in evidence-based therapies to interrupt anxiety and bring the nervous system back into balance. He notes it can produce measurable reductions in heart rate and blood pressure. Third, and most broadly, stay present in your physical environment. People often carry the mental load of work and home stress with them on vacation without realizing it, and deliberately shifting attention to sensory experience is a practical antidote. What is notable here is not the advice itself. Most of it is well established in behavioral science, but the fact that mainstream consumer health media is now routinely translating this research for general audiences. The message that mental health support does not require a therapist's office or a prescription, that it can come from sand between your toes or the shock of cold ocean water, is a genuinely democratizing one. The caveat is that the article's most vivid example involves a luxury Jamaican resort, which is a reminder that wellness journalism does not always reach the people who need it most. Story 4. The breath is the lever on your nervous system, and so much more. This well-researched newsletter piece explains how paced breathwork, particularly slow breathing at resonance frequency, ~6 breaths per minute, directly raises vagal tone and strengthens the baroflex. Citing a 2025 review in Medicine International, it connects consistent breathwork practice to reduced inflammation, better blood pressure regulation, and improved emotional regulation. It is grounded, practical, and scientifically referenced. Story 5. 4 soothing restorative yoga poses for when you're overwhelmed and exhausted. Yoga Journal offers a practical, accessible guide to 4 restorative yoga poses specifically designed for states of overwhelm and exhaustion. The piece gives practitioners permission to slow down and do less, supporting nervous system recovery and emotional reset. Ideal for stress reduction and integrating restorative practices into daily life. Story 6. Embodied compassion for difficult emotions. Recovery coach Emily Jane offers a guided meditation focused on developing the capacity to stay present with painful or distressing emotions through compassion rather than resistance or repression. Published by Mindful, a leading mindfulness resource, this practice supports emotional resilience and somatic awareness. It is grounded, accessible, and directly applicable to daily mental health maintenance. Story 7. Frontiers: the Association of Mindfulness on Psychological Distress among Chinese university students. This peer-reviewed study from Frontiers in Public Health investigates the relationship between mindfulness and psychological distress in Chinese university students, including moderating effects. Using hierarchical regression models, it adds culturally contextualized evidence to the growing body of research on mindfulness for stress and anxiety relief. The findings are relevant to anyone interested in the cross-cultural applicability of mindfulness practices. Story 8. EEG interpretation across chant listening. A single-subject pilot investigation using spectral and functional connectivity analysis. This pilot neuroscience study uses EEG to analyze brain activity during different auditory conditions, including Aum chanting, Sanskrit mantras, and resting state. Spectral and connectivity analyses reveal distinct neural patterns associated with each condition, offering early scientific evidence for the brain-altering effects of chant-based meditation practices. While limited to a single subject, it opens meaningful research directions for sound and meditation science. Story 10. Sound bath for nervous system regulation. This weekly immersive sound bath event combines crystal singing bowls, gentle instrumentation, and guided breath and body awareness to support nervous system regulation and shift the body out of stress states. Each session holds a unique intention and theme, making it a flexible and accessible somatic practice, relevant to those interested in sound healing, vagal tone, and nervous system recovery. Story 11. Yoga Nidra for nervous system regulation, self-awareness, and emotional clarity. A newly launched training course on Yoga Nidra specifically framed for nervous system regulation, self-awareness, and emotional clarity. Yoga Nidra is a deeply restorative practice bridging sleep and wakefulness, making it particularly relevant for stress recovery and emotional resilience. The course's clinical framing reflects the growing integration of yoga practices into evidence-informed care. Story 12. Your beach vacation can boost your mental health. Experts share 3 tips. Wellness experts explain how beach environments can support mental health by facilitating mindfulness and grounding practices, noting that these approaches can measurably reduce heart rate and blood pressure. The article highlights how people often carry stress from daily life into vacations and offers practical mindfulness-based strategies to counter this. It connects nature, sensory presence, and stress reduction in an accessible way.